With the popularity of Elden Ring last year, I saw a ton of videos from bigger and better names out there referencing the Guts build, which is typically a strength-based, a single, large, great sword-wielding build, and while I had to be the well actually guy, I feel that most of the time we tunnel vision a little too hard on the big and obvious tool of choice, focusing on only using one aspect of our beloved Black Swordsman, but clumsily forget the fact that Guts isn't above using other means to take down his foes. I do suppose it is worth talking about his most iconic piece of equipment. While it would fall into the category of sword, physically the Dragon Slayer is more like a slab of metal the size of a park bench that Guts uses to murderify his foes. With conventional weaponry not being able to do much damage to the type of enemies that Guts is facing against, he had to find more unconventional weapons. Years before Guts' time, Godo was a famed blacksmith who was best known for creating these intricate and beautiful swords for the rich and wealthy, and while his skills landed him the patronage of noblemen, including his castle town's residing lord, and business was good with commissions coming in. However, when a dragon ended up attacking the town, the local king ordered Godo to forge a blade that would be capable of killing the beast, which led to the creation of the Dragon Slayer, whose name doubles as a description. This sword shied away from Godo's typical fare of exquisitely designed ornaments, instead focusing purely on utility, up to the point that it actually infuriated the king once it was realized that nobody could actually wield such a weapon. Due to the sheer size and weight of the blade, no normal human was able to physically use the item, and it was eventually left in storage to slumber. But Guts is no normal human. When swung, one can't expect to be sliced, but rather to be crushed. With its large vertical size, Guts is able to be a master of crowd control, often using the weapon to wipe out hordes of enemies at once, while with its large horizontal width, Guts is also able to use the sword much like a shield or even a fly swatter. Thanks to Guts' long-time experience with swords that are larger than life, he is exceptionally deadly and surprisingly quick. So when you remember that force is essentially speed times mass, the result of someone like Guts swinging something like the Dragon Slayer is definitely eye-opening. The Dragon Slayer is a brutish weapon that even apostles fear, as the weapon is designed to overkill. We've seen Guts use it to match the destructive powers of a multitude of godlike beings, and with the amount of untimely deaths it has dealt to these evil astral beings, the sword has actually absorbed some of their darkness such that it is now exceptionally proficient at killing the undying and injuring the untouchable. With the Dragon Slayer being so eye-catching, sometimes our eyes don't really catch the fact that Guts does indeed have a prosthetic arm, but it would be a deadly mistake to ignore that fact. After the events of the Eclipse left Guts without a left arm, Erika and Riker built him an artificial one using some lingering parts in Godo's place to help mitigate the arm's loss. The arm itself is magnetized, which enables Guts to use it with metal weapons like the Dragon Slayer. While the fingers of the arm can open and close, it doesn't have much more finer movement options, and is oftentimes either in a firmly closed grip, in a fist position, or in an open-handed state. The arm does allow for specialized add-ons to aid in specific situations. We've seen Guts add a repeater crossbow that shoots arrows in rapid succession, thus enabling him to mow down hordes of smaller or weaker enemies. However, the highlight of the arm is the hidden cannon, which can fire a cannonball for terrifying results. When the Dragon Slayer is absent or the situation doesn't allow the Dragon Slayer to be used properly, the cannon is the next best thing. Although it typically isn't a one-shot, one-kill item, especially when used on the type of foes that Guts is typically up against, a well-placed shot can still pay dividends throughout any conflict. With this kind of great power does come great responsibility, and during downtimes we often do see Guts clean, maintain, and refill the various parts of his arm. There have been occasions, especially in extended battles, that the arm isn't able to show off like usual due to blood clogging things or something similar. When a piece of equipment has the title of a series in its name, you know it's something special, because its history is probably better explored in a different video tackling the Skull Knight. What you need to know is that this is an ancient set of armor forged by the dwarf Hanar, given to Guts from the part of the Great Witch Flora. While the Dragon Slayer does allow Guts to compete with the foes he's thinking of taking on, the Berserker armor is what will allow him to succeed. The armor fundamentally serves to bring to the surface its wearer's darkest and most dangerous thoughts and feelings. In fact, the armor molds itself to the wearer. In its first appearance, the Berserker armor is skull-themed due to its previous owner, while Guts' inner demon is more animalistic, and the armor changes accordingly, being much more beast-like in appearance. The armor's signature ability, however, is to suppress the limits of the human body, and at least when activated, activated, surpass them by leaps and bounds. When active, the armor creates a helm to protect the wearer from head to toe and induces a rage that makes the wearer lose control of their actions, attacking friend and foe alike with red eyes as ablaze. During this time, injuries are mostly ignored and the body is forcefully mended to continue fighting on. Note that when I say ignore, I mean that the injury itself is ignored in order for the fight to continue on. The person within still fully feels each and every cut, stab, and blow to the body, and the injury does still physically exist. In compensation, the wearer's physical limits are fully exceeded and pushes their strength, speed, and endurance, with a little small asterisk on endurance, to superhuman levels. As an example, with the armor on, Guts is able to wield the Dragon Slayer one-handed to the same, if not superior, efficiency as an armless Guts is able to, grabbing firmly with both of his hands. Furthermore, the armor is also somewhat magical in nature, as Guts' prosthetic arm and fingers suddenly gain a full suite of motion as though powered by the suit. Of course, we've mainly talked about the good, but we all know that this kind of power comes with an equally, if not more terrible of a price. Again, the armor does force you to fight on once fully active, with the original premise being that you would continue fighting until there's nothing left to fight, or if your body can literally no longer fight on. In the instances that Guts has come out of the suit post-combat, the injuries sustained are often horrific and fatal for most not called Guts. There are also long-term consequences to its usage, both physically and mentally. Long-time users often find themselves more and more in tune to their negative emotions, and the suit slowly dehumanizes them. The world around you becomes less and less worth living, with your sense of sight and taste slowly eroding. It's a dark price that Guts is willing to pay. In fact, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that if it were not for outside help from his companion's magical abilities, Guts may have already paid the ultimate price. To be prepared on the battlefield, Guts does go around with a wide array of other tools to help him along the way. Throwing knives have been quite useful throughout Guts' career. With the skill of throwing these being taught to him by judo, he has become quite proficient in the art. While it gets harder and harder to picture it now, as a silent assassin, we've seen Guts use them effectively to quietly take down guards and wandering enemies. However, as Guts' eyesight has been actively deteriorating, we've seen him rely less and less on these accuracy-demanding items, doubly so because their effectiveness greatly diminishes when used on anything inhuman. In terms of go-to throwing items, bombs will be the standard fare, as it provides more punch in a more forgiving setting, although consequently they are much louder and flashier and don't quite work in a assassin setting. In general though, as Guts has begun to rely more and more on the Berserker armor, and because the armor itself when active doesn't really bother throwing items anyway, Guts has imparted these tools to his unofficial protege Isidro to give him a fighting chance in combat situations. While many people obsess themselves over Guts' giant sword, we have to remember that Guts' choice of tools and weapons isn't a fashion statement, but rather a necessity to ensure his survival in this unforgiving world. Guts isn't above seeking help, finding other options, and trying new things out, and neither should you. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope you guys are excited for this month of Berserk. Berserk feels like the first mature manga series I've ever read, and I really think it was deserving of a month just for itself. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, or anything in between, and thank you all. Have a nice one, dummies.